Welcome to She Said podcast. Ta-da! All right, today we are going to talk about life after 30. Or at least what life is like for me after 30. You know, I look back and my, teenage years and I look back at, even like my 20s and, you don't really think that things will be all that different. Reality check. It will be. I don't even know that 30 is considered middle-aged anymore. I think it's still considered like the younger end of the spectrum. Although I feel like it's a very weird age to be in. You know, you're officially an adult, or at least that's how it feels, because you're no longer 20-something. And you have all of these new favorite things that were never a favorite thing before. Like everyone has their favorite stove burner. Which one do you use the most? Because let me tell you, in your 20s, that wasn't really a concern. You never really paid attention to it. You never, had a favorite burner. And I think that it's all of these things that make us feel like we're not the young adults, but we're not the older generation either. And you have to kind of, you're raising kids and you're building a career or being a stay-at-home mom, or you're looking for what you really want to do in life, and I'm, in my late 30s, and there are so many things now that I had no interest in teenage or young, like my 20s or even my early 30s. I would say probably closer to my late 30s is when my interests and things started to change as my kids got older and I'm looking at things, my husband and I have like a small homestead. We've got chickens and ducks and turkeys and rabbits. And, I really want to make sure that we're eating correctly and we're not, we're paying attention to labels and we're doing all of these things, right? But I feel like I am a young person because I look young for my age. So I get told all the time that I look like I'm in my early 20s. So it's hard for me to feel like I'm in my late 30s. But I have interests of like a 70-year-old, right? I now have an interest in making bread and stuff from scratch. And I've not successfully, but I have started to try and make like a sourdough starter. It's going to be the bane of my existence. Okay. But I also really like to crochet. I have taken up a new interest in sewing, right? So I have my grandmother's sewing machine, and she used to make quilts and stuff all the time. And other things. This thing is like indestructible. It's from like the 1970s, and it still works. The one that I got that came out in 2000, that my mother had, although she never had an interest in sewing, she had a sewing machine. It quit working. It's stuck in reverse. And because it's computerized, I can't fix it. So, all of the things. But I have, interests in doing things from scratch. And, I like to make my own ketchup. I like to make my own barbecue sauce. I learned how to make my own peanut butter. And I feel like I've got an old soul. Like or maybe it's because I'm now in my late 30s. Are these the interests that pop up now when you hit quote unquote middle-aged? Who knew that I'd be so excited to have a garbage disposal installed in my kitchen? But when you don't have something that you're used to having, it's like Christmas morning. And, I look at things now and they're nostalgic, but they're considered old school or classic. My daughter tells me all the time that, I'm old. My son does too. And I'm like, but I'm not old. I don't look old. I don't feel old. I feel like I'm stuck in like limbo in the middle of what do you do in your 30s? You know, there are all the things that you like now that you didn't like as a kid. Naps, canceling plans and not going out and staying home and reading a good book, or, you know, doom scrolling on your phone. Whatever piques your interest. You know, and I like to try and make my own dishwasher pods or soap, or my laundry soap. There are so many different things that I now like to do that I didn't have any interest in doing before. And I just, am I the only one that feels like once you hit your 30s, like you start to have like your grandma's interests, or like want things to be simpler, or, you know, want to sell everything and just take a trip? I don't know. You know, and in your 30s, you're still quite a ways away from retirement, and you're, you know, in a job or a career that you may not actually have any interest in, and then you go to look for another one, and, well, you have to have so many years experience, even for an entry level. So even to try new things, you have to have experience in those, which just baffles my mind. You know, but when we were younger, time seemed to take forever. Like the school year took forever to end, or the next break you would get, you know. And then in your 30s is like, where did the last year go? I mean, we're in the middle of November, right? Where did the rest of the year go? It's baffling. And, you know, things are changing so much. The government shutdown has finally ended, which I know was affecting like a lot of people, and including us, and it's affected us in more than one way. And now it's back open, and the story of our life right now has been God wants us to wait. Just wait. And I am doing everything I can to patiently wait. You know, and I look at things and I'm like, God, to be 20 something again. You know, my 30th birthday was like super difficult for me, like, because I was no longer 20 something. I was no longer like what I would consider a young adult. And, you know, then I started this new church, and their young adult like group is from 18 to 35. And I'm outside of that, and I'm like, but I still feel like a young adult. Can I just join? Can I like be a part of it? You know, and my daughter graduates this year, and I'm like, where did the last 17 years go? You know, and she's starting to like show interest and stuff and things that I'm doing as well, you know, like making things, you know, like cooking, and she has a slight interest in sewing, but I think that will maybe flourish once I actually get past like the basics, because I've really been struggling, and like I have a very limited space. I don't have a lot of supplies, and I'm trying, and my sewing machine is not like what I would call a newer sewing machine. So unless I want to do like a zigzag stitch, my needle is not in the middle of my foot. And if you don't sew, then you may not know any of that terminology. And this is where I feel like I'm got the soul of like a 70-year-old woman. But you know, we're in our 30s. We've had lots of life experience, and we still have lots of life experience ahead of us. What do we do with our lives? Do we work on building a career? Are you, you know, is your career like a stay-at-home mom, and like that's where you thrive? I think that's probably been like one of the hardest things for me, is because I have been someone who has had a job since I was 16. And this is the first time in my life that I haven't had a regular job. And I started my own business, doing, like vacation rental property management, after I got released from my last job. And I mean, I could sit here and try and defend myself with that, but unless you were there, you would never understand. It's just absolutely bananas. I think I talk about it in a previous podcast, but I don't have like a regular income. I don't have that stability. I don't have like the routine. And for me, like my ADHD brain, I really do kind of need that routine, and it's been hard to try and like set my own routine since I, haven't had a job, and that's been, I was let go or released or whatever you want to call it in like August. And we're in November. Now, my faith has been very like set, and I know that God's got it all figured out. But I'm struggling this week. I'm riding the struggle bus. I look at my life, and I'm in my late 30s, almost 40s, and society says that I should have it all figured out. And I don't. And I'm hoping that I can set a routine and maybe learn something new. Maybe be able to really grow my business. I mean, I have people who are interested in being clients, but they're locked in like contracts and stuff, and I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, well, it's fine, just cancel your contract. No, fulfill what you have going on. I'll be here whenever you're ready. And I mean, I've been in my market for almost 4 years, and I want to do more. I want to be more. And I want to be a great example to my kids that you can have a career and a job. You can be a stay-at-home parent. You can mix it with both. Do like a hybrid. Maybe you're, a part-time stay-at-home parent and a part-time have a job. Maybe you have the flexibility to do that. I never thought that I would be in my 30s and be like, what's my purpose? What is this age range that I'm in? And because I'm not a boomer, I'm not old enough to retire, but I'm no longer young enough to be considered fun and cool and all of that, or at least depending on the day. So what do I do? What is the purpose of us being in our 30s? Obviously, other than, being alive. But where are we on that ladder of like life? Because I feel like I've just like jumped in a black hole. So, what's your thoughts? What's being in your 30s like for you? Send me in stuff. Or if you're out of your 30s, what was your 30s like for you? Is that where you found your career? Is that where you decided, did you have a midlife crisis and change everything? Did you go in a different direction? Did you, have a established career and then become a stay-at-home mom? Did you have kids late in life? I had kids early in life. I'm interested in like what people's thoughts are on what do we do in our 30s. I mean, we're now in the era of technology, right? We do the videos, and we do the TikToks, and we do the YouTube and all of those things, and we build like this following of people that are interested in listening to us, look stupid or make videos or cook or clean or whatever the case may be. And that's where we, as late 30-year-olds, end up doom scrolling. I like to watch videos of a hoof trimmer called the Hoof GP on Facebook and stuff. My husband tells me that, eventually you're just going to watch so many videos that you're going to be able to do this. And I'm like, yeah, no, but I do enjoy watching them. What has happened to me? What has happened to where my source of entertainment is watching hoof trimming online? Although it is very interesting and there is a lot to it. Like, I'm not diminishing it at all. Like, it's really cool in my opinion. And as someone who eventually wants to have like a full-fledged farm, maybe I do have a slight interest in learning how to hoof trim. Maybe I want to be a farrier. I don't know. Maybe I just, want a whole career change. Maybe I want to do something completely different than what I've ever done. I mean, is that midlife crisis? Is that what a midlife crisis is? Is where I decide that I maybe want to change like everything that I do, and where I feel like I have an old soul, and maybe I just want to retire now. I mean, that would be great. I would love to retire now. I don't know. But figure out which one is your favorite stove burner. Figure out what you get excited about with your home. Garbage disposal, decorating, towels. What are things that are nostalgic to you now? Are they considered classics or old? Are you now in your, 30s and contemplating what you're supposed to be doing next? All of these things. And I'm figuring it out. But I would like some opinions on what the 30s mean to you, or what you feel like you've accomplished in your 30s. I mean, I'm married for, only a couple years. My husband and I, he's my second marriage, but he's adopted my children, and we are building a life together. We are being there for each other, right? And that's something I did in my 30s. In my 20s, started my career in property management / real estate. And it's something that I'm really good at. I enjoy it. I am not much of a people person, but in that environment, I am. I am very organized. I like doing paperwork, and I like building things, and I like creating things. So I accomplished all of that in my 30s. I moved across the country, or halfway across the country, in my 30s. Am I looking for something else? I'm looking for more. But maybe I'm interested in a different career. Maybe I'm interested in doing something differently. Any advice is very well accepted. I mean, send it in, comment, direct message me, whatever the case may be. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. I want to hear your 30 stories, okay? What is life like for you in your 30s? And I mean, just let me know. I want to know that I'm not alone. That this is normal, or maybe I'm just abnormal and it's not normal. But thank you for, hanging out with me today and contemplating the 30s and everything that goes along with it. I appreciate everyone that hangs out with me and listens and is there, to support me as I go. And if you have any ideas, if there's something that you want to hear about or hear my perspective on, or want me to research and do some research on, let me know. I'm open to just about anything. I don't have a niche or a niche or whatever you want to call it. But I will be here, same time, same place, same chaos next week. I hope you guys have a wonderful week.